Hello, Texans. All the reports are in, and our guides are saying that the fishing is great. So with the hot temperatures and the calm seas, it's going to be a great weekend to be out on the water. So load up your Yeti, gas up your boat, and get your rods ready, because we are going fishing here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
This is the Texas Insider Fishing Report. I'm Brie Gabrielle. This is Captain Rick Murphy, and we're here along with your regional captains to give you your mid-July fishing reports. And y'all, we know it's hot, triple-digit hot, Rick. So how's that going to impact our reports and, most importantly, our anglers?
Well, you know, they had this little cold front come through, and it actually cooled things down. I think it's short-lived, actually, talking to Matt before the show got started here on the phone. But you know what? I think in either case, it's a little warm blessing or a little cool blessing that's going to help their morning fishing last a lot longer. Morning fishing, that's the key. All right, well, someone who's always on fire is Dave Ferrell at the CCA Workbench. He's got some tips as well as some new products for us. You're always on fire.
Yeah, well, you know, I got rid of my gum underneath here, so now I'm good.
Oh, good.
I can talk now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
We're talking about catfish. It's hot. So catfish are good to chase when it's hot.
So catfish
they eat in the wintertime, but they're good now.
All right, we'll pick back that gum and we'll be back to you in a second. Let's dive deep into our Project Smokehouse Lower Fresh region with Matt Reed as he lets us in on some local secrets on Choke Canyon, Fayette County, Travis, LBJ, and Decker. Do us some good, Matt.
All right, might as well get this thing started. We're going to talk about the largemouth bass. I'm going to start on Lake Amistad out around Del Rio. Got three main things going on there in that shallow water in that 1 to 10 foot range. You're catching a lot of fish around the mixed grass, around the hydrilla and the pondweed. They'll bite a topwater spook or a ribbit-type frog. Just under the surface, they'll bite a chatterbait or a swim bait. If you want to slow down, you can catch those fish on a wacky rig, soft plastic, or even throw a light-weighted Texas rig up there. In that 10 to 20 foot range on the hydrilla line, you need to have a spook-type top water ready for the schooling activity that's going on around the edge of the grass. Also, if you want to catch a bigger one, that 10-inch Texas rig worm on that outside edge is a great way to catch that fish. In the heat of the sun, punch a 1 ounce weight on braided line with a soft plastic right through the thick hydrilla. That's a great way to catch a big old fish there. If you move out past the hydrilla in that 20 to 30 foot range on the rocky points and bluffs, a lot of fish being caught out there on drop shots, Ned rigs, football jigs, and flutter spoons. Get out on beautiful Lake Amistad and catch them a whole lot of different ways right now. Moving up to Lake Travis, it's in its normal summertime deal where there's schooling fish in all the marinas and in the back of the coves. You can catch those fish on top waters. That's the best way to catch them when they're busting. Later in the day, you want to move out on the bluff walls and take a fluke, a belly-weighted hook on a fluke, and throw it up to that bluff wall, let it fall down about 10 feet, and slowly twitch it back. You got to be real careful because you won't feel the bite very often. It'll just load up. Lake Decker, it's spitting out some good fish in the discharge early in the morning. Most of those fish are school fish, so you're throwing a small swim bait or a spoon at them when they bust on the surface. Another way, catching some good fish there right now is throwing a crawl worm on the creek bends and channels to catch you some of those bigger fish early in the morning. Later in the day, there's open water schools are busting. They're a little hard to chase that way because they're always over here or over there. But if you can end up in the right area, you can catch them on a crankbait in that 12 to 15 foot range. If you have the urge to dodge the heat right now, Lake LBJ, the night fishing's been real good. Pattern there is you want to run the docks that have the lights on them. Catch a lot of really good largemouth like that right now. Throwing a 4-inch swim bait or a mid-range crankbait is the best way to catch those fish on those lighted docks. Moving on down to Choke Canyon, early in the morning, there's a good frog bite. One of the keys for the frog is to downsize the frog using a small frog. That seems to be the key because of those bass are targeting dragonflies of all things. South Texas is one of the few places I've ever seen them just jump for dragonflies, and they do that a lot. So that small frog's been working for them. Half-ounce spinner baits also catching a lot of fish on the edge of the hydrilla. The Texas Rig Cinco style bait on the outside edge of the grass is a really good way to catch them there after the sun's come up. Fayette County, it's been good all week with the as we get past the full moon. The early and late bite's been best, but there's also a window in the middle of the day you can catch them. They're in that summertime pattern in that 15 to 25 foot out on the deep points and ledges. Best way to chase those fish is with a big crankbait or a football jig. Got a picture of a big old bass coming up there. We've got Greg Boyk with Angler's Angle Guide Service with a big old fish that he caught there at Fayette County this last week.
All right, tell us about the white bass, Bub.
All right, let's roll. White bass and hybrids, Lake Somerville. It's open. They hadn't had any pressure. They're schooling all over the place around Birch Creek and Rocky Point. Slab spoons and top water will get it done. Lake Decker, we've got big hybrids schooling out on the open lake. Not many whites, but most of them are the big hybrids. You catch those fish on a top water or a crankbait. Got a picture of Brian Cotter there with 4 big old hybrids he caught last week while on a guide trip.
All right, tell me about the kitty cats.
All right, we got Lake Falcon catfish. They're biting really good. One of the catfish patterns that you don't want to think about very much, but it works, is under the hardwoods where the cormorants, where the birds are. Those catfish chase what they leave in the water. The bigger cats are being caught suspended on the creek channels in about 10 foot of water under a float. Cut shad and carp has been the best way to catch those fish.
All right, thanks for starting us off on the Prospect Smokehouse lower fresh region. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the hot spots, and Matt says that we're gonna go largemouth bass fishing on Lake LBJ, and they're biting really well at night. Target the docks with lights and throw swim baits and shad crankbaits, or you might want to avoid the heat to catch them. Don't forget, nighttime's a good key.
Nighttime. All right, let's welcome the Middle Coast region next and Captain Tommy Alexander, who's filling in for Bink Grimes today. Tommy, tell us what we can expect for this weekend's inshore and offshore bite.
Yes, ma'am, Bree. Well, it's real hot here on the Middle Coast with feel-like temperatures in the hundreds, so it's been a real early bite. Get out there real early and get back to the dock real early. That's kind of been the pattern to beat the heat. But most of the Middle Coast anglers been banging full boxes of trout all last week in the surf, but that ended pretty quickly. The wind picked up on us and kind of got it rough. So we got southwest winds that had returned, made tougher fishing out of the boat, especially for drift fishing. But despite all those conditions, there's been multiple 7-8 pound trout have been released while drift fishing in East Matagorda Bay. All you got to do is find a big group of shell over some 5-6 foot water. If you put a shrimp under popping cork and basically wait for it to get dumped. Mostly areas like Raymond Shoals, Pipeline, the Log, and the Tripod. Those are the areas that have been producing the best, even in the murky, off-colored water that we've had with the southwest wind. On the other hand, the waders, they have released lots of big trout, while working the mid-bay reef whenever they can get on them, like Half Moon, Three Beacon, Drill's Lock. All of those have been very good for the wade fishermen. The key there is to get out early, get sunrise, get your first cast by the sign of, about right at dawn. You want to be casting real early. And then down in Port O'Connor, it has been just as hot, of course. Deep reefs in San Antonio Bay, much like East Matagorda Bay, hold a lot of trout along the edges of the reefs. There are hundreds of reefs actually down there in the middle of that bay. This hopscotch reef to reef is basically the way they do it. The guide, Captain Lynn Smith, has enjoyed wade fishing for limits of trout while the incoming tide. He's been keying mostly around half cavallos and stuff like that. Lots of fish have been caught on topwaters, as well as those willing to grind for them. Spots like City Slickers, the Cedars, the old Coast Guard station, those are all holding fish over sand and grass whenever you can find that. And over in West Matagorda Bay, it remains steady as well. The grass beds are holding good trout, kind of like they always do this time of year, mainly on the incoming tide. Catch them on Bass Assassin, Mirror Lure, Soft Dines, and the Sheep Pup. again, same thing, early bite. So you want to get out there early, get back to the dock early. And for those tossing the live croakers, they've had pretty much easy limits before the sun comes up every day. They've really been catching them. They've been hitting the reefs early for the trout, and then jumping on the channels and stuff like that. And they're done real early, you know. So, and then they're targeting triple tail too around the buoys and the wells after all that goes. And down Rockport way, anglers have been catching lots of trout with mirror lures and the custom double D's, Bass Assassins rigged with the new custom Texas jig heads. And they're fishing guts, edges, sand grass flats. That's what's holding most of the trout. Topwater action's been pretty solid down there too, especially on the mud flats and stuff like that. Mud Island and super flat. And right now we got a photo coming up there. That is from a recent trip that we had out of the Sunrise Lodge in the surf when the surf was flat and green to the beach right there.
All right. Tell me about the redfish, Tommy.
And then on the redfish, let's go to redfish. Action improved this week with the low tide. It pulled a lot of the redfish out off the shoreline to the middle of East Matagorda Bay. So that's kind of been the pattern. We've been drifting looking for slick. Whenever you find a slick, you'll start catching those reds. You just power pole down, use that power pole to your advantage, and you can catch a lot of them that way too. There are loads of slot reds at the Matagorda jetties this time of year, which always is. Wads at the big Menhaden come through, and that they come in from the Gulf, and those redfish follow right behind it with the tide. The same scenario is playing out in Freeport, Surfside, Port O'Connor jetties. Don't be surprised any big trout eat those pogies too, so they'll come in there and get up on those jetties, and kind of the same deal.
Hey, Tommy, give me 30 seconds on the Dorado. All right, let's go ahead and go to that.
The Dorado, you got the Gulf season just opened, so kingfish are good, but the Dorado, Captain Michael Zabeka said he's been fishing weed lines, produces lots of Dorados while trolling rig ballyhoo and deep diving crankbaits. Lots of chicken dolphin along the weed lines, and the same weed lines are holding the triple tail just off the beachfront as well. And red snapper continues to be pretty easy with the nice Z's. Most captains are not even getting excited unless they're catching snapper up to 20 pounds. And tarpon are beginning to show too because of all the Menhaden coming on in.
All right,
passing through the bed.
Thank you so much for filling in. If the radio job doesn't work out, I got a job for you. I appreciate you very much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the CCA Texas hotspots from the Middle Coast region. He says trout are good in the Cedars, in Port O'Connor, on Bass Assassins, She-Dogs while waiting. And then redfish have improved in East Matagorda Bay with lower tides. Look for the small slicks and drift upwind.
You're such a charmer.
He did great.
He did do good. Tommy did great. All right, the Star Charm Middle Fresh region is our plates of interest next, but right now we're getting Dave ready at the CCA workbench for rigs and techniques, and it is stinky. What you doing over there,
Well,
Dave?
you know, you can't judge a book by its cover, but you sure can this stuff. This stuff
I'm judging you hardcore.
Sticky bait, stink bait, sticky stink bait is what it is.
Smells. If I was a catfish,
I thought that was Brie.
All right, we'll be back.
My
Thanks.
eyes are burning, I'm telling you.
Woo.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Garmin, join the club. Sportsman's Adventures, fishing for adventure. And CCA Texas, a leader in marine conservation.
Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 offshore 4-strokes. For those that like their V6 lighter, faster, and stronger. Setting new standards for power, efficiency, speed, and lightweight. Built for the rigors of offshore boating. Packed with Yamaha's legendary reliability. And now Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 4-strokes offer a choice between digital or mechanical controls to match your rigging preference. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
If you're not a member of Coastal Conservation Association, you need to be. CCA fights on a national and state level for our fishing rights so that our children and grandchildren will have fish to catch today and in the future. CCA, through their habitat programs, create oyster and artificial reefs, as well as many other habitat programs. CCA also each year releases millions of trout, redfish, and flounder, so join myself, Brie, and Dave and become a member of CCA now. Well, we're here at the CCA workbench, and I want you to know personally, it stinks.
Yeah, it does. It's a little. Well, you know, it stinks because a catfish is what we're talking about. Trying to catch some catfish. You know, a catfish, his whole body is like a tongue. You know, he doesn't have scales. He's got all those barbels in the front. His whole raison d'entrée is to, you know, be able to taste the water around him and then go to where the food is. You know, and that's how you find them, really. You know, if you really want to, there's like 3 different catfish we want to catch, and as a channel catfish, a flathead catfish, and a blue cat. And you know, they're all excellent to eat. The flathead catfish and the blue catfish are probably more apt to eat live bait, but all of them will. Channel cats, you know, they're a predator too. They're all, although they, you know, they get that reputation of just being scavengers, all those catfish will eat live baits. And as a matter of fact, if you really want to find a good concentration of either the blue cats or the channel cats, you need to find where the shad are. You know, and that's pretty much what all these are obviously prepackaged, but if you want to find the good concentrations of catfish, you want to try to find out where the shad are. And you know, in the wintertime, you want to look for warm places, because that's where the shad will try to bunch up in warm places, or you know, around marinas and concrete areas that warm up early will get more shad on them, especially in the wintertime. But at night, in the summer times, you can catch them around marinas and places where there's lights in the water. You know, around those cormorants areas where if there's cormorants around, they're probably close to the bait as well. And that's also where you'll find those catfish, around those cormorants, because like he said, where the cormorants are, there'll be catfish as well.
So once you establish where they're living,
right?
So I hear guys talk about seed the area.
Well, this is what the fellows were talking about earlier. They're talking about range cubes, and that's what these are. These are cattle feed is what they are. They're concentrated cattle feed, and the fellows will get a big bag of them. You can get a whole 50-pound bag for like $12, and they got oils and stuff in them that'll attract fish. And as soon as they dissolve, you throw 3 or 4 handfuls of those in a hole, you know, a good spot that's 12 to 15 feet deep, you know, over hardish bottom, place where you know that you've caught them before, and you seed that area for 2 or 3 days with those things. You don't want to overfeed them, because you can feed them till they don't want to eat anymore. But you know, just 2 or 3 handfuls for every couple of days will probably keep those fish coming and wanting to eat. Now I've got 3 or 4 different rigs here. One is just a regular fish finder rig, which will, you know, 20-pound test, you know, to a swivel, and then your whatever your weight is on top, whatever kind of weight you want, usually a round sort of weight, will be on top of your swivel, and that's your fish finder. And a lot of times, you know, you can put a lot of guys will put a float on their main line, on their hook line, and to get it up off the bottom. It's another thing. We always think that the catfish are always going to be right on the bottom, but this Santee rig is when they'll use a little float, and they'll put the float on and get it up above the bottom. And this is a 3-way rig, which is again, this one has a float on it actually. Got one with a float on it. But this is a 3-way rig with a 3-way swivel, and you can use this. You can drift with this kind of rig and bounce this on the bottom and have this floating off behind it, and you know, have a big chunk of shad on here, either a whole shad or a piece of cut shad. You know, it doesn't have to be a live shad, as long as you catch them live and use them fresh. They work way better than frozen or any other things. You want to use a big wide gap circle hook, kind of like one of these, or it's almost like a kale type hook, because you want a really wide gap to get around that the jaw. You can use any of the artificial baits like these super stickies or the fish bites.
This is new by Fish Bites.
Correct. They got new catfish bait. They come with either the, what is this, the shad or the crawfish or even the liver.
All right.
You know, liver.
Right.
If you're fishing with
I don't
liver,
like
you're
your
doing
liver.
good. I'm not a big liver
Brie,
fan.
you like liver?
Sure, I'll have some liver.
But get out
Not
there
if
and
it
seed
smells
some
like
of your
that, though, that's for
spots.
sure. All right, let's head into the Star-Trod Middle Fresh region now, where Matt Loescher has the 411 on Richland Chambers, Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, and LBJ with some changes. So listen up.
All right, Brie. Yeah, that was a really informative report there on the catfish. I'm going to touch on them here in just a minute, but I'm going to start out talking about the largemouth this week, kind of from top to bottom in the Middle Fresh region. On Richland Chambers, the bite's been a little slow. The water temperature there is kind of hanging in the mid-80s and holding around pool level. But even with the slower bite, Mr. Thurman Selman with Bass Specialty is still catching some fish in the mornings on topwater baits. And then once the sun comes up, it's all about that shade. So look for the fish around the docks. And squarebill has been good around those for catching them in that shady area around the dock. Then out deeper, some fish are also being caught up there on points and drops with crankbaits and Carolina rigs, so check that out as well. Down here on Toledo Bend, we've had a big change this week. The water level has been dropping pretty quickly. The dam operators have both generators cranked up, and it's finally stopped raining for a little while, so some of those, they're moving a lot of water through the lake, which is really helping to gang those fish up. The fish are starting to move a little further out on those ledges, points, and humps, in about 15 to 25 foot in larger schools. Now, most of these fish are keying on threadfin shad right now, so keep an eye out for concentrations of bait fish along those drop-offs on your sonar. Now, to catch them, you're going to want to burn a deep diving crankbait underneath those schools of bait fish or throw a Bass Assassin tap-out worm. I usually start with the crankbait, then go to the worm. Down on Lake LBJ, Mr. Jared Poole with Hill Country Hammer Guide Service is still catching some hammers at that. He had a really good report this week. In fact, he had a young lady this week named Jana Strube. She's just 12 years old, and she caught a 9.6-pound largemouth. A really big fish. I've got a picture here for you of that one. Yeah, just a beautiful summertime bass. I know, isn't that just makes you feel good to see her grinning ear to ear holding that big old bass, don't it?
I got news. If I was caught that fish, I'd be grinning from here to there.
Me too. And that fish also may be a junior lake record. We're waiting to find out for sure on that. That fish was caught on a 12-inch Texas rigged worm. Jared says that the fish down there are holding tight to rock piles in about 15 to 20 foot. And he also said that you can catch some in the morning on walking topwater plugs. And then down just a little ways from there on Lake Buchanan, Jared said the bass are biting pretty fair in the deep trees on points and flats. Now next, I'm going to jump real quick to white bass. They've been biting pretty well in the real late in the evenings and even into the nighttime hours on Toledo Bend. You want to look for those on the points and humps adjacent to the river channel, because they kind of hang out in that river channel, then they pull up at night and late in the evening to feed in about 10 to 20 foot of water. You can catch them on spoons or a small white grub on a jig head when they move out of that river to feed. Next, I'm going to talk about the crappie. They've been a little slower this week here on Toledo Bend. I think that's mainly contributed to the bright full moon nights that we've had this past week. The fish have been feeding probably a little more at night, but that bite should be picking up. It has been picking up actually a little bit the last couple of days during the day now that we're past that full moon stage, it's improving. We're still catching some real nice size slabs. The size is good. The numbers are, about 20 to 70 fish a day, so still pretty good numbers. Mostly on minnows right now. We haven't caught as much on a jig this week. I think that's kind of because they just aren't as aggressive during the daytime right now. But that also should get better now that we're getting further away from that full moon. It's not shining so bright every night. We're fishing in about 15 to 30 foot of water around timber on the main lake to catch those fish right now. And I've got another photo here for you of young Mr. Dagan with a real nice slab he caught with me earlier in the week.
Kids
and
are
to finish up, to touch on what you guys were just talking about, the catfish, I've also noticed that we've had a really good catfish bite lately on Toledo Bend. About 20 to 30 foot deep, below those schools of shad. So get out there and get some of those whisker fish for your dinner table.
All right, thank you so much, Bub. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the middle fresh hot spots. He says largemouth bass are biting topwater baits in the morning and the bottom baits once the sun rises on Richland Chambers and LBJ. And then bass on Toledo Bend are moving farther out in 15 to 25 feet biting worms. And then white bass are biting in the evenings on Toledo Bend and 10 to 20 feet near the river. And then crappie are in 15 to 30 feet on the timber. Man, we got fish just about anywhere you go.
We've got fish everywhere.
Yeah,
those
just
are some
pick a spot and start catching.
Those were a lot of hot spots. All right, summer is the perfect time to plan a fall adventure. So head to fabulous Cabo San Lucas to fish in the 21st annual Los Cabos Billfish Tournament, October 13th through the 17th. Cabo San Lucas, Mexico hosts some of the most prestigious and richest billfish tournaments in the world, and the Los Cabos Billfish kicks off the tournament season with a $750,000 purse up for grabs. Anglers and crews get to fish in spectacular setting where the harsh desert meets the marlin-rich waters of the Pacific Ocean and the Sea of Cortez. This three-day tourney awards a wide variety of prizes and many ways to win, including tuna, dolphin, and wahoo categories. So you don't have to be a master bill fisherman to take home a bit of cash. You still have plenty of time to sign up and secure your spot and a good boat from the affordable Los Cabos fleet. If you want to fish in the most incredible fishing destinations on earth and have a chance to win some money in the process, visit LosCabosTournaments.com and reserve your spot today. I'm in.
All right,
I'm always in. All
Let's
right,
go.
get ready, Texans, because we're checking out what the Garmin Lower Coast and Yeti Upper Fresh regions have to offer next. But before we go, we want to remind you, if you would like to catch up with our crew and everything fishing in Texas, make sure to visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us on YouTube, and check us out on Instagram. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. CCA Star, fishing fun for giant prizes and scholarships. And Project Smokehouse, a link above.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection four-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle.
When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Today's power pole tip is about the power pole spike. Now, it's really important to have the right presentation. These tarpon and permit are swimming down the edge of the flat, and by only using the power pole off the back, the wind would blow us up on the flat and we wouldn't be laying on the edge where we're waiting for these fish to swim by. So, the great part about the spike is it allows us to manipulate the way the boat lays in the channel and in the current and wind. The other thing that we use the spike for is when we go down sandbarring, a lot of times you have a lot of extra rope when anchoring, and that can be problematic. People will run over your ropes. You also have to have one at the front and one at the back because of the current and the wind. So by utilizing two spikes, it's absolutely perfect. Now remember, the spike comes with a rope already attached, so simply all you gotta do is stick it in the sand. And that's today's power pole tip.
You know, Brie, that spike when it comes to sandbarring, hanging out on the edge. Guess what? Stick it in. Now you don't have to worry about all that rope hanging out.
I know. We have one. It's the best.
It is the best.
All right, now let's get to the nitty-gritty with our captain from the Garmin Lower Coast region who has your inshore and offshore reports dialed in. What are we catching, Chad? Mr. Chad.
Yeah, they got lower, the lower coast and for bay fishing's on, and especially got a quick deal here. We got Port Mansfield Fishing Tournament coming on this weekend, the Texas International Fishing Tournament next weekend, Ladies Kingfish next weekend. We got Legends. We got all these tournaments, and they're not packed in here for a reason. They're packed in because this is the ultimate time to fish if you're looking for pelagics and stuff like that from here through September. So starting with inshore, trout fishing has been really good here out of Port Mansfield along the breaks here. Go up from Butcher's Island up to Jones's Cut. They're holding that 4 to 5 foot of water. So we've been wading out in that chest deep stuff, which normally I don't like to wade that deep, but they're holding there right on the edge of the grass. We're fishing on soft plastics and stuff like that. We're throwing saltwater assassins. Sea shad's been working really, really well. Hit that grass, work them up like that, and popping through there, you do really, really well. There's going to be a lot of undersized trout, getting some keepers mixed in, and a few scattered reds. Also, I had a guy the other day, he was throwing a popping cork he couldn't keep out of the grass, so we put him on a fish bite. It's Fight Club, made by Fish Bite there, and it's a white one with a paddle tail. Put it on there, and he was just hammering them. So if you're going to use this bait, what we learned, make sure you use the jig head with a little spiral wire so you can thread that up on there. Working a whole lot better because those trout will tear that thing up to pieces. You get a lot of strikes out of that. If you're using live bait, work the deeper potholes with a live croaker. Pass the break out to that 6-7 foot line, free line. And also make sure you just, like I said, stay in those sand pockets, wear out the grass so that bait's not going to be able to hide and dig in there. Got a good picture. A young girl here had Bella Rangel, had their whole family out there today, and that's her personal best 24-inch, so I had to put it on there.
This is so
Of course
cute.
you did. Look at those shoes, man.
Look at that
I
fish.
love it.
And they watch the show every week, so it's a good deal, so it's good to them. So moving on to redfish action's been really hit and miss along the jetties, but when it's on, it's really on fire. I've been mentioning this here lately, but you got to go check it out when it's there. Main thing is the tide's got to slowly move out there in calm seas. The live finger mullet, live croaker, working really, really good. There's use Carolina rig and hit the deeper washouts and current. Best thing also, if you got the southeast predominant wind, which we have, go ahead and hit around the north side. You'll be protected. Go ahead and work those eddies and stuff like that. And there's some really big fish. I've seen some well over 40 inch and a bunch of slot reds. Got a picture here of Tanner Wynn with a big double there he got.
Nice.
Moving offshore, kingfish, we don't talk a whole bunch about them, but they moved in here and they moved in thick. Look for structure, current and color changes, of course. Definitely the mirror lure divers are really working really good on your flat lines. And the best time of day, I like getting that sun to get up. That way you can use like a macro color, anything with a shine on it. The sun will reflect off it, control 5 to 7 knots depending on your sea conditions. And remember, always, of course, use a wire leader when you're targeting these fish and stuff like that. Also, the shrimp boat action, they just started the 15th, so they're out there really thick. I don't think I've ever seen so many shrimp boats in shallow. I'm talking 40, 50, 70, 80, 90 feet. And there's plenty of kingfish behind those. If y'all work those up there. Got a picture of some clients we had in the other day. Got a picture of 30-pound plus kingfisher. That was their first one they caught. It was a lot of action there. And moving into the fun stuff, which I'm looking forward to, and a lot of these tournaments are, we're going to be hitting this weekend, next weekend, is the bill fishing. Bill fishing's coming in. Like I said, Port Mansfield tournaments this weekend, and TIFF's coming up and stuff like that. The blue water's starting to move in. I was just out today. It's out there. Saw a lot of bait and bait balls. Pull a full spread, of course, on this stuff. Outriggers, you got your center consoles, put your rigger still out, your center rigger, and pull some teasers. If you got a cool teaser or any spreaders, stuff you want to throw out there, be good. But make sure, my favorite one is throw that Islander lure, rig the ballyhoo. Been talking about this, tournament time, throw a circle hook on it. You can rig it up. If not, call Dave or call myself. We'll tell you how to get through that one. In the mid-range lures, also work extremely well on your riggers. And try some chuggers and super plungers on your flat lines there. And of course, make sure to keep an eye on your bait at all times. If you get a bite, a hit real quick, drop that bait back and have a pitch bait ready. Work really good. Also, main thing is keep an eye. I looked through it today. There's a bunch of different water temps. So I got my Garmin on there. I've got an 8612. And look for your water temps, your bait balls on there. If they're down deep, those bait balls will move up shallow. Just stay in that same area. Don't drive over them looking for they will move up eventually, and that's going to be the best way to work them up. You have your best chance. Look for thermoclines in your temperature change, and that'll be bigger best bet for the billfish and sailfish, white marlin, blue marlin.
All right, well, thank you so much, Chad. Great report from the Lower Coast Garmin region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots. Our captain says inshore trout fishing has been good north of Port Mansfield by Butchers and Jones Cut. Redfish action is around the jetties along the lower coast, and then offshore, good kingfish action off of the lower coast along Structure. The CCA Reef out of Port Mansfield and South Padre Island, the RGV Reef producing very well as well. It's all well.
The Yeti Upper Fresh region, starring Johnny Geis, has Lake Texoma and Lake Fork as your main acts this weekend. So, Johnny, give us a sneak peek.
Hey, Rick and Bree. Well, the stripers up on Lake Texoma, man, they continue to bite great on into the summer heat. Captain Bill and Chris Carey at the Striper Express, they shared this great report with us. Early mornings, the striper bass is surfacing all over the lake. Makes for a lot of exciting fishing. Bill says you can have upwards of an hour of topwater fishing heaven. So there's nothing more exciting than having a hungry striper explode on a big topwater bait. They're using a big 6-inch type popper bait and some Magnum chug type baits, popper baits, and they're the go-to baits of choice for the topwater bite. After about an hour of that topwater fishing, they're switching over to the soft plastics, getting into some slab fishing. The jigs are great in shallow water on the flats and up the creeks, and then the slabbing is just as good on out in depths from 10 to 30 feet. They're bottom bumping the slabs, staying about 5 foot off the bottom. All three techniques are producing stripers up to 10 pounds daily. Bill says it's a great time to get a striper fishing adventure book with friends, clients, especially the kids before school starts. Striper Express big on kids. They give every kid a Striper Express t-shirt. So he tells the parents we'll wear the kids out and send them home snoring. So give them a call, Striper Express, visit them at the striperexpress.com and hook up. They'll be putting you on some stripers. Here's a couple of pictures of happy customers this week from Striper Express. Don't you love that early morning look on that picture?
Yeah, man.
Good top waters, and they're catching them. Hey, Rick, Bree, guess what it takes to catch a big bass on fork?
What?
A big spoon.
That's it.
Makes sense.
Lake Fork bass bite, big bass bite's been very inconsistent for me, and some days they're just downright tough. But one thing about Lake Fork, we got plenty of good guides here, so someone always seems to figure them out and find out that new technique or place or bait where they'll really bite. So this week I'm sharing some great pictures and a report from another Lake Fork Marina guide, James Caldemeyer. James has been spoon feeding these big bass this week. With his impressive set of 4 big Garmin units on his boat, 2 on the front, 2 on the back, his knowledge of Lake Fork deep water structure, James has been putting his customers on some big ones. Bass been a little scattered this week, started suspended up the water column, real normal for late July. High winds made it a little tough fishing, but the big bass are eating large gizzard shad. James is using a large flutter spoon, imitates that type forage. I mean a whopping 8 inches long, 3.5-inch flutter spoon to trigger the big bites from the suspended bass. Caldemeyer does a lot of searching and live scoping with his big Garmin units and locates schools of big bass that are set up to feed. He then positions that boat so that the customers can make precise casts to the bass. Takes long casts, about 20-pound fluorocarbons, the way you present that flutter spoon. Make the long cast, let that spoon flutter to the bottom, watch your line. When it hits the bottom, quickly raise your rod up, let that flutter spoon back down, take up the slack all the way back to the boat. Be very aware of that sag in the line. Try to feel it as it falls back, because that's when your bite is. You might feel a subtle tick, or they might want to yank the rod out of your hands. Just depends. James has been using his Garmin live scope to see the suspended bass, and he's telling me he's seeing the bass eat the spoon a lot of times while watching that screen. The big white and yellow bass, they'll hit the smaller compact slab spoons, and so will bass, but the giant flutter spoon tracks the big ones. And they're up feeding on big gizzard shad, and even smaller white and yellow bass are prey too. So here's a couple of pics James shared with us this week. Look at the size of the spoons in these fish's mouth. Over half the size of the bass. There's some good ones there, right?
Yes, sir.
Bass are over 20 inches, so you can see what size that spoon is. So give James a call if you want to catch some of these Lake Fork giants and learn more about using Garmin electronics. Man, I've been amazed how many fish I'm seeing every day on my live scope. Each day I learn a little bit more about the different species, how they react to the boat pressure, the lure selection, color, and line size. So looking forward to fishing tomorrow. Get me some spooning going on myself. Hope everyone catches a big one this weekend.
All right, thank you so much, Johnny. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the upper fresh region. He says Lake Texoma, the water temperature is in the mid-high 80s. And then stripers are good on topwaters early and slabs later in the day. And then Lake Fork, the water temperature in the high 80s. Fair bass on spoons, football jigs, and shaky head worms.
Lake Fork, big spoon, I know.
He's gonna be spooning tomorrow. Come on,
I
Bree.
got it. I'm good. Okay.
It took me a while.
We always talk about CCA, and that's because CCA Texas always helps lead the way in habitat restoration, and they've committed $900,000 to efforts along the Texas coast, including shoreline protection, marsh and oyster restorations, nearshore reefing projects, and studies on serpulid reefs. That's pretty cool.
They do it all, man.
They're doing everything. All right, the Fish Bites Upper Coast region is next here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. But first, I spy something over at the CCA workbench, and it looks a lot like a Dave Ferrell with some new products.
Yep, we got some good stuff here, and we're going to talk a little bit about this Coasted Dry Box.
What?
Isn't that cool?
Looking
Keep
pretty
all your
shiny
stuff
and good.
nice and cool in
Hope
there.
you got some big spoons for some, fork action. Anyway, we'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yeti, built for the wild. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Miralure. Building Conservation Trust. CCA's National Habitat Program. And StarTron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO. Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
Oh, there it is. You can either stay busy fishing or get busy catching. From Texas to Tampa Bay or Key West to the Carolinas and beyond. For nearly 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites. Ask for Fish Bites and Fish Bites Fight Club lures by name or visit fishbites.com.
Over 40 years ago, Mr. Proshek began smoking meat in a little Texas town called Hilgi, combining fresh, grade A ingredients to create a variety of legendary smoked meats. Today, Proshek's Smokehouse is a Texas tradition, and now Proshek's not only satisfies hunger in Texas, but across the country. Visit Prosheks.com and order everything from fresh meats to your choice of jerky. Proshek's meats are made by Prosheks, sold by Prosheks, and can be delivered in as little as a day. Proshek's Smokehouse, a link above.
Hey guys, Captain Rick Murphy here, and I thought it would be really cool to talk about a little 101 when it comes to propping out your boat. You know, you need to understand that whether it's a repower or buying new boats, props are changing, motors are changing all the time. So I'm going to give you a couple things that really work and that you can really have a more educated guess when it comes to starting to make the right decisions. Now understand, guys, that 4-blade props are going to hold a tremendous amount of water, and it's also going to allow you to run your jack plate, like I do on my Pathfinder, extremely high. What I also have to be careful of when I'm running the jack plate high is potentially overheating the motor. Now the 4 blades have this crazy ability to give you great hole shots, as well as they have the ability to really allow you to run very, very shallow. So keep in mind that 4 blades, if you need to run shallow and you're not worried about speed, that would be a good place to start. Now this turbo, this propeller, as you can see, has a much smaller hub. But as you can tell, the blades themselves are raked way back, which has a tendency to give you a little bit more speed. This propeller also have what we consider as wall cup. And the wall cup allows you to hold a lot of water
whenever the boat is being trimmed out. So you can trim the engine a lot higher. Now, the downfall about floor blade props is simple. You have more blades as you're going forward, which creates more drag on the back side of the blades, and they have a tendency to be considerably slower and maybe not as efficient because you're not going as fast and you're taking a longer period of time to get there. So the 3 blades are the prop, if you want to go fast, that you might want to pick. Now keep in mind that 3 blades certainly are very, very fast. Big diameter propellers seem to be the way to go, whether you have a big center console with triple motors. The middle prop usually is a 4 blade because it has water that's approaching it from the left and the right and has a tendency to create its own cavitation. So Contender is putting 4 blades on a lot of the middle motors to help offset any cavitation that you might have in rough seas. So I'm going to tell you that this is some of the key points that you might want to remember, because bow lift is going to come from the wall cups that we're talking about versus rake is going to give you more speed. So you can go to either YamahaOutboards.com. They have a whole bunch of prop information there, or you can go down to your local Yamaha dealer. Well, I don't think there's any questions here at the CCA workbench about props. I would say that we thoroughly covered that.
You got it all in there, man.
But we got to cover some products. So what do you got, Dave?
First, we're going to talk a little bit about these, the Crappy Dapper, the 2-inch. We got some new colors out. You know, what's really great about these little Crappy Dappers, they're 2 inches long, and the little tail just kicks like crazy and gives it a whole lot of action. But you put this on a little 1/8 ounce jig head or a little horse head jig with a blade on it, like a Roadrunner blade. Everything will eat it, from redfish to trout to big bass. I've caught a lot of bass on them trying to catch little crappie, and they just work for everything. That's the brand new color there called the Pink Lime. They come in 27 different colors, just about every color under the rainbow, and you know, you can't go wrong if you get one of these little things and throw it on ultralight gear. You'll catch a lot of different stuff, and stuff a lot bigger than you'd think. So get some of those Crappy Dappers.
Panfish Assassin.
Panfish Assassin.
All right.
Next, we got some fish bites here. We got 2 different kinds. We got the long lasting and the short action. We both have the shrimp and the strips, as well as the cut baits. These are the cut baits right here. And what's really great about these is the long-lasting ones are great for offshore fishing. You can drop them deep and they'll take a long time to bleed out. The fast-acting ones, obviously, if you're sight fishing or you want your stuff to get into the water really quick, that's the ones you use, and the fish bites. And this stuff is really great. It stimulates the fish to eat, and that mesh inside is impossible to get off there unless you got a pair of scissors or a sharp knife. So it's really hard for any of the fish to get off.
I've been using this stuff since the late 80s.
I'm telling you.
I was tipping bucktail jigs when there was no plastics.
It works. The stuff works.
Yeah, man.
All right, next we have the TH Marine Hydro Wave H2, and it's an electronic feeding stimulator. What it is, it's a hydrophone. It says it's a waterproof speaker, but it's a hydrophone, and it plays 16 different sounds, from bait blitz to shoaling blitz, crawfish, surface baits, shad schools, just about. They record these sounds, and then they have them on a loop, and you can play back all 16 of those sounds. And you can choose one and play it for 90 seconds at a time, a continuous loop, or you can make it stop and wait 30 seconds in between. You mount this thing on your trolling motor with some zip ties, you know, on the top or the bottom. It's got a 14-foot cord, so you can put it on any trolling motor.
I'm going to put this one on my trolling motor, and there's some wrecks I'm going to go to, and the bull sharks already attack the trolling motor from the vibration. I can't wait to see what
electrical
happens.
Too. So
can't wait to see what happens this.
Yeah, but anyway, the Hydro Wave from TH Marine, go to TH Marine and get that. Lastly, but not least, we have the Costa Dry Box. You know, it's perfect for a little wallet or keys. It fits most phones. My iPhone fits right in there, even with a case on it. It's, you know, completely waterproof. It's got a rubber gasket, a nice positive click, the thing's closed. It's got a little lanyard on it. You can hang this on a backpack or put it on a latch on the boat somewhere. It's got really good hinges on it. You shouldn't have to worry about it falling apart. Again, it's something made by Costa. So it's a good thing. It's also got a pressure valve as well. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Good job, guys. Good job over here, Dave.
Costa Dry Box. Get you one of those.
There it is.
Very cool.
I better put these keys back in my pocket. I'll forget where I put them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but gotta love that positive click, guys, right?
I love that.
It's
Click.
like, click, we're good. All right, well, in the Fish Bites Upper Coast region, we're giving you a well-rounded inshore and offshore report with a pretty all-around good guy, Captain Carl Weston. Give us all of the reports for this weekend, Carl.
All right. Hi, Rick and Brie. Well, what we've got is Dylan gave us a report that the wind was dying down last week, and the trout bite in the middle of the bay was really hot, drifting the oyster shells and working slicks in the 7 to 9 foot depth off the ship channel over towards East Bay. That area has been really good, working soft plastics and soft baits like the Mirror Lure Marsh Minnow or the Mirror Lure Little John with an 1/8 inch jig head. A 4-inch Bass Assassin shrimp or live shrimp under a popping cork has been on point also, and that's been from Galveston all the way up to Sabine Pass. That fishing, the fishing's been really good now lately. And we have a picture here with Chris.
All right.
Sorry, and
that's a nice trout. That's a nice trout. Tell me about the redfish, Carl.
Well, Dylan was also reporting that the redfish action has been really good around the mouth of the bayous, around the marsh, and along the rocks in the Galveston Ship Channel. With the rain we've had, he said to remember to go to the mouth of the bayous for your best opportunity to catch these fish now. Right now, the fish can be caught on a 4-inch Bass Assassin shrimp rig or a shallow diving crankbait like the Mirror Lure Mirrodine. He said to also try cracked crab and mullet have been producing redfish really good on the jetties right now. And that is actually a picture of Dylan with the redfish.
Oh, that's a good picture, man. Nice job. All right, let's go offshore there, bub.
Okay, so as we move through this snapper season, it looks like the average size of these fish are getting a little bigger now. We've had some snapper over 20 pounds in the last week and a half. So we're using larger baits, fishing in deeper water, and that has seemed to improve your average size. Now the current has been really strong as well, so you might have to up to a 16 or 20 ounce sinker to get down quick so you don't drift off the spot before you get your bait in position. Cut squid and whole cigar minnows have been a really good bait choice. So you need to get out there and get some of these great tasting fish before this season ends. And we have a picture of Tyler with a really nice size snapper from Saturday's trip.
That is a nice snapper. Any big reports of way offshore? What do you got?
Well, we have been fishing. This is going kind of a mixed bag. We fished all over, and as we reported last week, the mahi bite is really strong on the offshore weed lines and the current break, stronger than I've seen in years. Now, with shrimp season in progress also, we're starting to catch some blackfin tuna behind the shrimp boats. We've seen nice catches of laying up to 60, 65 pounds. There's been kingfish around the boats, so drifting a cigar minnow behind these boats is a good way to get hooked up on them also. And just like to, touch base with people, there's a lot of good fishing around the shrimp boats, but be careful. I know we all fish behind these boats, but don't get too close and try to respect these guys. They're trying to make a living too. Don't get in their way. And we got a picture here of Natasha with a mahi from Sunday.
All right. Well, thank you for all the pictures. Hey, Carl, I do have a couple questions for you. We're coming there next month to do a Sportsman's Adventure episode with you, and we're going to be targeting swordfish. So my question is, if we don't have slick, calm conditions, what's plan B?
Well, we can do some deep dropping. We can do some trolling. Fishing is still going to be really hot at that time of the year. That we'll just have to wait and see. Plan B will be, hey, we all get together and decide what we want to catch. So,
exactly.
We'll make it work, boss.
All right. Well, tell everybody we're coming. We need to have a party on one of those nights. So we'll make sure we buy some Prosecks and have it delivered to the camp, and we'll have a nice big cookout. And guess what? We'll bring leftovers home today.
Thank you.
All right, bud, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the MirrOlure hotspots from the Upper Coast region. Our guide says that inshore, we want to catch trout, drifting oyster shells, and slicks in 7 to 9 foot range using MirrOlure marshmallows or MirrOlure Little Johns on an 1/8 ounce jig head. Or maybe you might want to try a 4-inch bass sass and shrimp, or even live shrimp. So it sounds like we got all covered there. And then offshore, catch a snapper using 16 to 20 ounce sinkers due to the strong current. And you might want to try some cut squid or even a whole seaguar. Mino.
Minos. Are you gonna have a Prosecks party?
We're gonna have a Prosecks party. We might even invite the crazy man, Mike Prosecks.
Mike Prosecks himself. He is crazy.
Well, that's how we'll get the food over there. You know.
Of course, but Dave always gets leftovers. Dave never gets leftovers.
Well.
He always gets kind of the,
So.
Yeah, the leftovers.
Leftovers.
So what are you gonna have?
That's
What are you
all right.
doing this weekend? You guys going fishing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. Why not?
Yeah. I'm going.
If it ain't raining.
I'm
If it
gonna
ain't raining, I
actually
am.
take a fella tarpon fishing. He's coming in from Montana.
Yeah.
So he wants to catch a tarpon, so we're gonna try to do that. And then
Bucket
Saturday,
lister right there.
Saturday and Sunday, we'll maybe take the contender and do some mahi fishing with.
Oh man, it sounds like a
Kathy.
great weekend.
That'll be fun.
No invite. All right. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Catch those fish. Send us pictures. See you next week.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.